Hey guys, Wild Willie here. Happy January 1st. Welcome to issue number 7 of the Prepper's Cupboard. Once again, this series is designed more for the novice or short-term prepper, or someone who's just concerned about getting through the 72 to 96 hours of emergency that maybe they're facing. So a couple things I want to go over today. First one is keeping warm in the wintertime if your power goes out, heating. And the second one we're going to cover a little bit is security. So there is a chance that, depending where you live in the world, here in Ontario or here in Canada, that the power could go out in the wintertime and you could be stuck without a source of heat for a few days or heating your home. That's why first I'm going to recommend that if you got the financial means to go out and buy a small indoor kerosene heater that's made for indoor use, I would buy one. Just an extra thing to have just in case. But there has been situations here in the province and elsewhere in our country where people have died because they've had no power in the wintertime and they froze to death in their homes. Storm of 77, blizzard of 77, White Death. People were trapped in their homes and in their cars for days and in businesses for days because they couldn't get out. More recently, the ice storms that rocked Quebec and eastern Ontario. People, that was, I think, don't quote me, but I think it was the most financially costly damage-wise and I think fatality-wise too in Canadian history. People were trapped in their homes and some froze to death because they had no way to heat themselves, and it was a freezing rain to a flash freeze to cold minus temperatures for a few days, and all during that time people had no hydro. So we're going to look at keeping warm in your house. So the scenario is you don't have anything, the power's out, you've turned on your crank radio or your emergency radio and you've been informed that this is going on and the power's going to be not out for a while. First thing you should do, guys, before you even consider keeping warm is if you can find out how long the power is going to be off for and you know it's going to be cold, your water lines. You don't want your lifelines to freeze. Water lines going into your house freeze or your taps freeze, and if they thaw or they can expand, they can explode and you can have a mess. That's the last thing you want is a watery basement when it's minus 20 outside or something like that. So you got two choices. Either bleed your lines, which means turn off your main water valve going into your house and bleed your lines dry so there's no water in them. Or even better yet, rotate them. Turn them on. You don't got to turn it on hot water and even on cold. Just leave them on a little trickle. Moving water won't freeze. It'll be enough to keep the lines from freezing. You can just rotate them. You don't got to keep them all on 24/7. Just every few hours. Turn them on and turn them off type thing. But anyways, keeping warm. Now, if you're stuck in a two-story home, a bungalow, whatever, you're not going to want to try to heat your whole house. It's not practical. You want to keep one little area that's going to be warm for you and your family, whether it be a single room or a family room or whatever. It's going to be one area where you're all going to congregate during the day and sleep in at night. Now, what you want to look for is traditionally it's been a room that's upstairs because during the heat rises, cold air sinks. So in the dead of winter, you're not going to want to hanging out in an uninsulated basement, that's for sure. But whatever room you choose, make sure it's a room that can be closed off, which means has a door covering it or an entrance at least that you can cover with a blanket or a tarp or something to keep it a little bit warmer in there. Secondary, a bonus one would really help is a room with south-facing windows. Even in the dead of winter, the sun is a powerful thing. It creates a lot of energy and a lot of heat. If you open up your blinds on a sunny day in the middle of winter, even though it's minus 2, minus 3 outside, put your hand down where the sun is shining on the carpet or something like that or on your hardwood floor. You'll feel the difference. Put your hand in front of the sunlight. You'll see that it's a few degrees warmer. And a neat trick to do is take dark colored clothing, take dark colored blankets, sleeping bags, whatever. Throw them into that sunspot as it's coming through the window. And then take it away that night, and you'll be surprised how long that dark clothing absorbs the heat and how long it keeps the heat. It might not be a lot, but it might be just a few degrees difference to keep you from staying up all night or getting a good night's sleep. So something to think about. Another one is I've seen people in the past, and people have survived this way. Power goes out, so what they've done is in the middle of their living room, they've set up their little two-man Coleman tent, camping tent. And they're sleeping in there. They're virtually living in that tent for a few days till the power goes back on. It's easier to keep the inside of the tent warm than it is for their whole living room. So just something to think about, guys. Second one is security. So what security, when I mean by that, I mean preventative measures. What you have in your home, if you own a bazooka, a sword, nunchucks, a gun, whatever, that's your business. I'm gonna more talking about the preventive side of things. There is things online you can see how to make. If you can look up how to make weapons, how to make homemade bear spray, whatever. That's your prerogative. But I'm talking about preventative measures, and the two I'm going to talk about today is don't brag and don't show. So what I mean by that is, by bragging, you could have your 72-hour kit set up. You can just buy that brand new, that brand new crank radio that you got, or you can buy that brand new kerosene heater, and then you're going to go and tell your neighbor and say, hey, guess what I just bought, da-da-da, da-da-da. Well, you know what? Your neighbor now knows you have that, and if your neighbor knows you have that, God knows how many people he or she told. A dozen people on your area can know you have that. So that's one thing to consider. What you have is your business and no one else's. Number two, what I mean is don't show, is if the power does go out, and you're in a situation where you're without power, or without hydro, or without any means of taking care of yourself proper for 3 days, just say 72 hours, 96 hours, whatever. Keep your blinds closed, especially at night. You don't want people looking in to see what you have. I'm not saying don't help your fellow neighbor or don't help someone in distress, but only what you can afford to. You don't need to show off to the world or brag to the world about what you have. If your house is lit up like a Christmas tree inside when no one else on the street has power, or your house has got heat when no one else does, you know what? You don't want to attract that attention, believe me. There's been studies done for a while, and especially you noticed it after even Hurricane Katrina in the States or Hurricane Sandy in the States. After 72 hours of people without eating or getting proper water supply, they're not the nicest people anymore. I don't care if it's your neighbor that baked you an apple pie when you moved in, sweet old Mrs. So-and-so or whatever. If they're going 72 hours without eating or without drinking proper, they're not going to be sweet old so-and-so anymore. You got to look at it this way, on both ends of the spectrum. What would you do on this side to provide and go get food and water so your family can live if you had to go out and get it? What would you do on this side if you had to protect the food and water and supplies to keep your family alive? So, it's just a thing. Don't show what you got. Keep your blinds closed at night if you're lighting stuff up. No one wants to look in your house and see you sitting there and you just boiled up a nice pasta dinner and you're listening to a nice radio, listening to some nice music, boiling up a cup of tea. You don't want to show your neighbors that. Keep your blinds closed. If you can't close them entirely, or keep the windows closed entirely so you can't see through them, hang blankets or something in there. Hang tarps up, put clothing, put newspaper over the window. It's no one's business what you're doing in an emergency except for yours. Your priority is yourself and your family, and then everyone else second. So that's something to consider too. There's people that are concerned about, I'm not even getting into the break and entry and alarm systems and all that other stuff. That's something you can look on your own, but don't brag, don't show. 2 little simple steps that you can do to keep your family that much safer, alright? Anyways, I'm Wild Willie, and I'm going to go and play in the woods, I think, for the rest of the day, so I'm going to sign off for now, but remember, it's not a question of if the shit will hit the fan, it's a question of when, so always be prepared.